The fluorescent lights in Gregory Sanders' office seemed harsher than usual as I stood before his desk, my hands trembling despite my efforts to keep them still. His expression was a careful mask of professional regret, but I could see the discomfort in the way he kept adjusting his tie, the way his eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. "Emily, I'm sorry, but we have to let you go, effective immediately." The words hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. I blinked, certain I had misheard him. 8 years with Riverside Marketing Solutions, 8 years of early mornings, late nights, campaigns that won awards, clients who specifically requested me by name. I don't understand. My voice sounded distant, as if someone else was speaking. My performance reviews have all been excellent. The Henderson campaign just landed us our biggest contract this quarter. Gregory shifted in his leather chair, the sound of it creaking filling the awkward silence. "It's come to my attention that you've been working 2 jobs, that your commitment here has been compromised, that you're exhausted, making mistakes, putting our clients at risk." Each accusation hit like a physical blow. 2 jobs? I work here full-time, and yes, I have a second position, but it's never interfered with my work here. Who told you this? He cleared his throat, looking more uncomfortable. "I received a call from someone very concerned about you, about our company. They provided specific examples of your declining performance, your inability to focus. They said you were going to ruin us." My heart began to pound so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Who called you, Gregory?" "I'm not at liberty to say, but they were very convincing. They clearly care about you and about protecting our company's reputation." The puzzle pieces started clicking together with sickening clarity. The only person who would do this, who would go out of their way to destroy my career while pretending it was out of concern, was Patricia Hammond. "My mother-in-law. I need to sit down." The words came out as a whisper. Gregory gestured to the chair across from his desk. "I'm truly sorry, Emily. This isn't personal, but I can't risk the company. I have 30 employees depending on me to make sound decisions." I sank into the chair, my legs suddenly unable to support my weight. 8 years of my life. 8 years of building relationships with clients, of proving myself in an industry that wasn't always kind to women. Gone because of a phone call from a woman who had hated me from the moment her son brought me home. Can I at least know what examples she gave you? What mistakes I supposedly made? Gregory pulled out a folder, and I recognized the meticulous notes inside. Patricia had always been thorough. She'd once spent 3 hours explaining to me why the wedding flowers I'd chosen were inappropriate, complete with a color-coded binder of alternatives. According to her, you've been falling asleep during client meetings. You mixed up the Anderson account with the Peterson account, nearly costing us both clients. You've been late to work 17 times in the past month. I stared at him, my mouth open. None of that is true. Not a single word. I've never fallen asleep in a meeting in my life. I've never confused those accounts. They're completely different industries, and I haven't been late once, let alone 17 times. You can check the security logs. Something flickered in his eyes, doubt perhaps, but he shook his head. She was very specific, very detailed. And honestly, Emily, the fact that you're working 2 jobs is concerning enough on its own. It shows divided loyalty. My second job has never interfered with this one. I've been completely transparent about it from the beginning. "But you're exhausted," he insisted. "It's affecting your judgment, your performance." I felt my anger finally breaking through the shock. Show me one piece of documentation of these supposed mistakes, one client complaint, one instance of actual poor performance. Gregory's silence was damning. He had nothing because there was nothing. Patricia had simply lied, and he had believed her without question, without bothering to verify a single accusation. "I need you to clear out your desk today. Security will escort you out." The humiliation of that statement made my cheeks burn. 8 years, and I was being treated like a criminal who might steal office supplies on the way out. I stood up, my legs steadier now, fueled by righteous fury. This is wrongful termination. You're firing me based on unverified accusations from someone who isn't even an employee of this company. I've made my decision. He stood as well, signaling the end of our conversation. I'll have HR send you information about your final paycheck and benefits. Walking back to my desk felt like moving through water. My colleagues glanced at me with curious, pitying expressions. News traveled fast in an office this size. I wondered how many of them had already heard I was being fired, what version of events Gregory would tell them. Sarah Mitchell from accounting appeared at my side as I reached my cubicle. "Emily, what's happening? Are you okay? I'm being let go." My voice sounded remarkably calm. I began pulling personal items from my desk. The photo of Daniel and me from our honeymoon in Greece, the coffee mug my niece had made me for Christmas, the small succulent that had somehow survived my neglect. "What? Why?" Sarah's shock seemed genuine. "You're one of the best people here. According to Gregory, I'm working 2 jobs, and it's affecting my performance." The bitterness in my tone was impossible to hide. "But you've always been amazing at your job. This doesn't make any sense." "I know it doesn't." But apparently someone called him and convinced him I was a liability. Sarah helped me pack my things into the cardboard box security had provided. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. 8 years reduced to a single box of personal belongings. The security guard who escorted me out was young, barely out of college, and he kept apologizing under his breath as we walked through the office. I held my head high, refusing to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing me cry. That would come later, in private. Outside, the spring sunshine felt mocking. It was a beautiful day, the kind where everything should be right with the world. Instead, my career was in ruins, and I knew exactly who was responsible. I sat in my car for a long time, hands gripping the steering wheel, box of belongings on the passenger seat. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "How's your day going? Still on for dinner tonight?" My husband had no idea his mother had just destroyed my career. He had no idea about the campaign of subtle cruelty Patricia had been waging against me for the 5 years of our marriage. I'd hidden most of it from him, not wanting to force him to choose between his mother and his wife. Now, looking at his innocent texts, I realized that had been a mistake. I needed to go home and process this, needed to figure out my next move. But first, I had somewhere else to be. My second job, the one Patricia had been so concerned about, the one she'd used as ammunition to get me fired. If she only knew where that second job actually was. The drive across town gave me time to think, to let the shock wear off and the reality sink in. Patricia had always been difficult. From the moment Daniel first brought me to meet his parents, she'd made it clear I wasn't good enough for her son. I was too ambitious, too career-focused, too independent. She'd wanted Daniel to marry Olivia Brennan, the daughter of her best friend, a sweet girl who taught kindergarten and volunteered at the church every Sunday. The fact that Daniel had chosen me instead had been an unforgivable slight in Patricia's eyes. Our wedding had been a nightmare of her making. She'd criticized everything from my dress to my choice of bridesmaids to the menu at the reception. She'd given a toast that was more of a thinly veiled warning about how marriage required sacrifice and compromise, looking directly at me the entire time. When Daniel and I bought our house, she'd shown up unannounced 3 times a week to rearrange my furniture and reorganize my kitchen. When I'd finally, carefully suggested she call before visiting, she'd cried to Daniel that I was pushing her out of his life. The pattern was always the same. Patricia would do something hurtful or invasive. I would try to set a boundary, and she would play the victim until Daniel felt guilty enough to take her side. Over time, I'd learned to pick my battles, to let small things go, to keep the peace for Daniel's sake. But this wasn't small. This was my career, my financial independence, my sense of self-worth. This was too far, even for Patricia. I pulled into the parking lot of Mercy General Hospital, my hands finally steady as I grabbed my badge from the glove compartment. My second job, the one Patricia knew I had, but had never bothered to learn any details about. To her, it was just more evidence of my inability to properly focus on being Daniel's wife. If she'd asked, if she'd shown even the slightest interest in my life, she would have known. But Patricia never asked questions she didn't already know the answers to. I clipped my badge to my shirt and headed inside, nodding to the security guard who knew me by name. Dr. Emily Hammond, the badge read, Emergency Department Attending Physician. I hadn't lied to Gregory. I did work 2 jobs. During the day, I worked at Riverside Marketing Solutions, a career I'd built before medical school, before I'd made the terrifying decision at 32 to pursue my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. At night and on weekends, I worked in the emergency department, finishing my residency, building toward the career I'd always wanted. It had been exhausting, yes, brutal at times, but I'd managed it carefully, never letting one job interfere with the other. I'd been transparent with Gregory from the beginning, and he'd been supportive. Or so I'd thought, until one phone call from my mother-in-law had undone 8 years of trust. The irony was almost funny. Patricia had tried to ruin my career by getting me fired from the job she knew about. She had no idea she'd just freed up my schedule to go full-time at the job she'd never bothered to learn about. Hey, Doc, ready for your shift? Marcus Chen, the head nurse, greeted me with his usual warm smile. You look stressed. Rough day? You have no idea. I managed a weak smile back. But I'm here now. What do we have? The emergency department on a Thursday afternoon was moderately busy. A construction worker with a nail through his hand. An elderly woman with chest pain. A child with a fever. The familiar rhythm of triage and treatment helped push thoughts of Gregory and Patricia to the back of my mind. But during a quiet moment around 6 that evening, reality came crashing back. My phone rang. Daniel. Hey, sweetheart. His voice was cheerful, oblivious. Mom wants us to come for dinner tomorrow night. She's making that roast you like. The roast I like. Patricia knew I was vegetarian and had been for 10 years. The fact that Daniel didn't remember or didn't think it was important enough to mention to his mother was a perfect encapsulation of our problem. I can't talk right now. I'm at work. My voice came out sharper than I intended. At the hospital? I thought you had the day shift at Riverside today. I did, but now I don't, because your mother called my boss and got me fired. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, what? Your mother called Gregory Sanders today. She told him I was working 2 jobs and it was affecting my performance. She made up specific lies about me falling asleep in meetings, confusing client accounts, being late to work. She convinced him I was going to ruin his business, and he believed her. He fired me. Emily, that's impossible. Mom wouldn't do that. The certainty in his voice, the immediate defense of his mother without even considering that I might be telling the truth, made something inside me crack. She did, Daniel. She absolutely did. Gregory told me someone called him expressing concern about me and the company, someone who gave specific, detailed examples of poor performance. All lies, all things that never happened. Who else would do that? Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I fought to keep my voice level, aware that I was standing in the middle of the emergency department. Your mother has made it clear from day one that she doesn't think I'm good enough for you. She's criticized everything from my career to my clothes to the way I cook. She's invaded our home, our privacy, our marriage, and now she's destroyed my career. Where's the misunderstanding in that? You're upset. Daniel's voice took on that patient tone he used when he thought I was being irrational. Let's talk about this when you get home. I'm not being irrational. I'm being fired. There's a difference. I'll call Mom and sort this out. I'm sure there's an explanation. The fact that his first instinct was to call his mother rather than support his wife told me everything I needed to know about where his loyalties lay. You do that. I ended the call before he could respond. Dr. Hammond? Marcus approached carefully. Everything okay? Not really, but I've got patients to see. The work would help. It always did. The rest of my shift passed in a blur of sutures and prescriptions and worried families. By the time I headed home after midnight, I was exhausted, but also strangely calm. A plan was forming, pieces clicking into place. Patricia thought she'd won. She thought she'd put me in my place, reminded me that I was just the woman who married her son, not a person with my own value or agency. She thought she'd made me dependent on Daniel, vulnerable, easy to control. She had no idea what she'd actually done. Daniel was asleep when I got home, sprawled across our bed in a way that left me about 6 inches of space on my side. His phone was on the nightstand, and I could see several missed calls from his mother. Whatever conversation they'd had earlier, it clearly hadn't been enough to satisfy Patricia. I changed quietly and lay down in the small space left to me, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I would go back to Mercy General and tell them I could work full-time now. My emergency medicine residency was nearly complete, and Dr. Reeves had already mentioned wanting me on staff permanently. The salary difference between marketing and emergency medicine was substantial. Not that money had ever been my primary motivator, but it would make the next conversation with Daniel easier. I must have dozed off eventually, because I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Daniel sitting on the edge of the bed, holding 2 cups of coffee. "We need to talk." He handed me one of the cups. I sat up, accepting the coffee. It was made exactly how I liked it, which meant he'd been thinking about this conversation, planning it. "I talked to Mom last night." His expression was troubled. "She admits she called your boss." My heart began to pound. "And? She says she was worried about you, that you've been exhausted, spreading yourself too thin. She was concerned you'd make a mistake that would hurt your career, so she thought if Gregory knew about your second job, he might talk to you about cutting back." That's not what she told Gregory. She told him I was already making mistakes, that I was going to ruin his business. She made up specific lies about my performance. Mom says that's not what she intended. That maybe Gregory misunderstood. "Daniel," she lied. Deliberately, she invented stories about me falling asleep in meetings, confusing client accounts, being chronically late. None of those things are true, and she knew it. You can't misunderstand your way into that level of detail. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from countless previous arguments about his mother. Maybe she exaggerated a little, but her heart was in the right place. She's worried about you. Her heart was in getting me fired, and she succeeded. Daniel set his coffee down, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Emily, you have to admit you've been working yourself to exhaustion. 2 jobs, barely sleeping. Mom has a point that it's not sustainable. I've been managing fine. My performance at both jobs has been excellent. The only person who has a problem with my work ethic is your mother, because she loves you, because she wants what's best for you." The casual gaslighting of that statement made my blood boil. "She got me fired, Daniel. How is that what's best for me? Maybe now you can focus on one job instead of spreading yourself so thin." He reached for my hand, his expression softening. "Honestly, sweetheart, I've been worried too. When's the last time we had a full weekend together? When's the last time you weren't exhausted?" I pulled my hand back. "So you agree with her. You think she was right to call my boss and lie about me. I think she went about it the wrong way, but I understand her concern, and mine." His voice took on that reasonable tone that made me feel like I was being unreasonable. "We barely see each other anymore. I miss my wife. Then be my husband. Support me. Defend me when your mother attacks me. She's not attacking you. She's trying to help." I stood up, too agitated to sit still. "You don't get it. You never have. Your mother has been undermining me, criticizing me, invading our privacy for 5 years, and every single time, you take her side. You make excuses for her. You tell me I'm being too sensitive, too defensive, too something. That's not fair. What's not fair is having a mother-in-law who actively sabotages my career and a husband who defends her." Daniel stood as well, his jaw tight. "I'm trying to keep the peace in this family. Is that so wrong?" "There is no peace, Daniel. There's just me constantly giving in to keep your mother happy, and now I've lost my job because of it." His phone rang. We both looked at it. "Patricia." "Don't answer it." My voice was steady, but it was a test. "Choose me, just this once." He hesitated, his hand hovering over the phone. Then he picked it up. "Hi, Mom." "Yeah, we're talking about it now." I walked out of the bedroom, out of the house, and got into my car. I didn't know where I was going, just that I needed to be away from Daniel's inability to prioritize his marriage over his mother's feelings. I ended up at a coffee shop downtown, ordering an enormous latte, and sitting by the window, watching people pass by on the sidewalk. Normal people with normal problems, not women whose mother-in-laws had destroyed their careers. My phone buzzed constantly. Daniel calling, texting, leaving voicemails that I didn't listen to. After the 15th call, I turned it off completely. I spent the day alternating between fury and despair. 8 years of hard work, gone. Not because of anything I'd done wrong, but because Patricia Hammond had decided I was too independent, too career-focused, too unwilling to mold myself into her image of the perfect daughter-in-law. As the afternoon faded into evening, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let Patricia win. I wasn't going to let her define my worth or my future, and I wasn't going to hide what she'd done to protect Daniel's relationship with his mother. I turned my phone back on and called Dr. Reeves. "Emily, hello." His warm voice came through immediately. "What can I do for you? I'd like to take you up on that offer to join the staff full-time, starting as soon as possible." There was a pause, then, "That's wonderful news. What changed?" "Let's just say my schedule suddenly became much more flexible." We scheduled a meeting for Monday morning to discuss details. When I hung up, I felt lighter than I had in months, maybe years. My next call was to a lawyer who specialized in wrongful termination. Then I drove home to face whatever awaited me there. Daniel's car was in the driveway, and I could see lights on throughout the house. When I walked in, I found him in the living room with Patricia. Of course she was here. Where else would she be when there was drama to manipulate? "Emily." Patricia stood, her expression carefully crafted into concern. "Daniel told me about the terrible misunderstanding. I'm so sorry. It wasn't a misunderstanding." I met her eyes steadily. "You called my boss and deliberately lied to get me fired. That's not a misunderstanding. That's sabotage. I would never." She pressed a hand to her chest as if wounded. "I called expressing concern for you, hoping he might talk to you about taking better care of yourself. You told him I was falling asleep in client meetings, that I'd confused multiple accounts, that I'd been late to work 17 times in 1 month. None of those things are true, and you knew it. I may have exaggerated my concerns." Her voice trembled slightly. "But only because I'm so worried about you, dear. You work yourself so hard." The endearment made my skin crawl. "Don't call me dear. Don't pretend you care about my well-being. You've made it abundantly clear for 5 years that you think I'm not good enough for your son." "Emily, that's not true." Patricia looked at Daniel with wounded eyes. "Tell her that's not true. Mom has always welcomed you into our family." Daniel stood, positioning himself slightly in front of his mother. "You're the one who's been distant and defensive." "Defensive?" I laughed, a harsh sound. "I've spent 5 years trying to win her approval. 5 years of enduring her criticisms and invasions and manipulations. 5 years of you taking her side every single time. And now she's cost me my career, and you're still defending her. Maybe if you'd listened to her concerns earlier, it wouldn't have come to this." Daniel crossed his arms. "You can't just ignore everyone who cares about you. Everyone who cares about me." I turned to Patricia. "Tell me, what's my second job, since you were so concerned about it that you felt the need to call my boss?" Patricia blinked. "What?" "My second job. The one you told Gregory about?" "What is it?" "You work at some hospital." She waved a hand dismissively. "Doing administrative work or something?" "Or something." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That's the problem, Patricia. You never asked. You never showed the slightest interest in my life, in what I do and who I am." You just decided I wasn't good enough and spent 5 years trying to prove it. That's not fair. Patricia's voice rose. I've always tried to include you in family events, to help you be a better wife to my son. Help me be a better wife. The condescension in that phrase was breathtaking. By criticizing everything I do, by rearranging my furniture without permission, by calling my boss and lying to get me fired, I was trying to help. No, you were trying to control me, and when I wouldn't bend to your will, you decided to destroy my career. Well, congratulations. You succeeded. Daniel stepped forward. Emily, let's all calm down and talk about this rationally. I am calm. I'm also done. I looked at Patricia directly. You wanted me to lose my job at Riverside Marketing Solutions, and I did. So here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to pursue wrongful termination against Gregory for firing me based on unverified accusations. And when that lawsuit moves forward, you'll be deposed. You'll have to explain under oath what you told him and why. You can't do that. Patricia's face had gone pale. Watch me. Then I turned to Daniel. And you need to decide if you're married to me or to your mother, because I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not being the scapegoat for her control issues. I'm not sacrificing my career, my self-respect, or my sanity to keep her happy. You're being dramatic. Daniel's tone was dismissive. Mom made a mistake, but she's apologized. Can't you just let it go? The fact that he characterized deliberate sabotage as a mistake told me everything I needed to know. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. I need some space to think. Emily, don't be ridiculous. Daniel tried to grab my arm, but I stepped back. We can work this out. Not tonight, we can't. I grabbed my keys and purse. When you're ready to actually hear what I'm saying, to actually support your wife, call me. Until then, your mother can keep you company. I walked out to a chorus of Daniel calling my name and Patricia crying about how she'd only been trying to help. The sound of her manufactured tears followed me all the way to my car. The hotel room was bland and impersonal, but it was also peaceful. No Daniel trying to convince me I was overreacting. No Patricia playing the victim. Just silence and space to breathe. I ordered room service and opened my laptop, drafting an email to Gregory Sanders. Professional, factual, outlining exactly what had happened, and informing him that I would be pursuing legal action. I didn't send it, not yet, but writing it felt good, taking action instead of just reacting. My phone rang around 10. Sarah Mitchell. Emily, oh my God, are you okay? I just heard what happened. The real story. I put her on speaker. What did you hear? Sarah's voice was breathless with outrage. Apparently Gregory's wife knows your mother-in-law. They're in the same book club or something. Mrs. Sanders was over this evening and mentioned that her husband had done Patricia a favor by firing her difficult daughter-in-law. She was laughing about it, Emily, bragging about how she'd convinced him you were incompetent. My stomach dropped. Of course, the pieces were falling into place. Patricia knew Catherine Sanders socially, which meant she'd known exactly how to approach Gregory, how to frame her lies to be most effective. So, Catherine knew it was all lies? I don't know if she knew they were lies, but she definitely knew Patricia was behind it, and she was proud of helping her friend. Sarah's voice hardened. But here's the thing. I recorded the conversation. I was at the Sanders house for a dinner party, and when I heard what Catherine was saying, I started recording on my phone. You recorded her admitting Patricia was behind my firing? Every word, including the part where she said Gregory was happy to help because you were, quote, too ambitious for your own good anyway. The rage that washed over me was clarifying. Sarah, can you send me that recording? Already done. Check your email. And Emily, I'm so sorry this happened to you. It's not fair and it's not right. After we hung up, I listened to the recording 3 times. Catherine Sanders' voice was clear, boasting about her husband's decision to fire the ungrateful daughter-in-law who didn't appreciate everything Patricia tried to do for her. It was damning evidence that this wasn't a misunderstanding or miscommunication. It was a calculated attack, planned and executed by Patricia with the full cooperation of Gregory Sanders and his wife. I forwarded the recording to my lawyer with a detailed email explaining the situation. His response came within minutes. "This changes everything. We have a very strong case." Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I created a new email account and sent the recording to Gregory Sanders with a simple message. "This is who you chose to believe over an 8-year employee with an exemplary record. Expect to hear from my lawyer." It was petty and probably inadvisable, but it felt good. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from Daniel and 1 from Patricia. I ignored them both and called Mercy General instead. "Dr. Reeves, it's Emily. About our meeting on Monday, I was wondering if we could move it up to today?" There was a pause, then his warm chuckle. "That eager to join us full time?" Let's just say I'm highly motivated. We met in his office at noon. I'd stopped by the house while Daniel was at work to get my professional clothes, not wanting to show up to an important meeting in yesterday's outfit. Dr. Reeves listened carefully as I explained the situation. Not all of it. I wasn't about to air my family drama to my future boss, but enough for him to understand why I was suddenly available full-time. "Emily, I'm sorry you lost your other position, but selfishly, I'm thrilled to have you here full-time." His expression was kind. "You're an excellent physician, and the department needs you. Thank you. That means a lot. We'll get the paperwork started immediately. You can begin full-time on Monday. The salary will be," and he named a figure that was nearly double what I'd been making at Riverside Marketing Solutions. My medical degree and residency were finally paying off in more ways than one. When I left the hospital that afternoon, I felt something I hadn't felt in days: hope. Patricia had tried to ruin me, but she'd actually freed me. I was about to start the career I'd dreamed of since I was a child, the career I'd gone to medical school for, the career that defined who I really was. Patricia had tried to make me small, dependent, controllable. Instead, she'd pushed me into becoming fully myself. Daniel was waiting at the hotel when I returned that evening. The front desk had given him my room number. I'd have to complain about that later. We need to talk. He was still in his work clothes, tie loosened, looking tired. I let him in, but I didn't sit down. Didn't want this to be comfortable or prolonged. Mom feels terrible about what happened. She wants to apologize properly. Does she feel terrible about what she did or about getting caught? "Emily, don't be like that. She made a mistake." "Daniel, stop calling it a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. What your mother did was intentional, calculated, and cruel. She deliberately lied. To get me fired because she doesn't like that I have a career and ambitions beyond being your wife. That's not true? Then why did she do it?" He ran his hand through his hair again, that familiar gesture of frustration. "She thought you were overworking yourself. She was concerned. If she was concerned, she would have talked to me. Or to you. She wouldn't have called my boss and invented stories about my incompetence." I moved to the window, looking out at the city lights. "Your mother has never approved of me, and we both know it. She wanted you to marry Olivia Brennan, sweet, compliant Olivia, who would have let Patricia run her life. Olivia has nothing to do with this, doesn't she? Your mother has spent 5 years trying to mold me into her ideal daughter-in-law, trying to make me quit my career, focus on homemaking, be grateful for her constant interference, and when I wouldn't bend, she decided to break me." "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" I turned to face him. "Let me ask you something. What's my second job?" He blinked. "What?" "My second job. The one that your mother was so concerned about. What is it? You work at a hospital? Doing something administrative?" My heart sank. Even Daniel, my husband of 5 years, didn't know. Didn't care enough to know. I'm a doctor, Daniel. An emergency medicine resident about to complete my training. I work in the emergency department at Mercy General, saving lives. That's my second job. His face went blank with shock. "What?" "I went to medical school 4 years ago. I've been doing my residency for 3 years. I've mentioned it, talked about it, invited you to come see the department. You've never asked questions, Never shown interest? You just knew I worked at some hospital and that was enough. I didn't realize it was that serious. It's my career. It's who I am. And your mother just tried to sabotage it without even knowing what she was sabotaging. Daniel sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. You're a doctor? I'm about to be a fully licensed emergency medicine physician. Mercy General offered me a staff position today, full-time. I start Monday. The salary difference? He started to say, then stopped. Is substantial, yes. More than double what I was making at Riverside. So, financially, your mother actually did me a favor by getting me fired. I can now focus full-time on the career I actually want. Emily, I don't know what to say. How about, I'm sorry my mother tried to ruin your career. How about, I should have paid attention to what was important to you. How about, I'll support you. Instead of defending her, I do support you. No, you support your mother. Every time she criticizes me, you tell me she means well. Every time she invades our privacy, you tell me she's just trying to help. Every time I try to set a boundary, you tell me I'm being too sensitive. That's not support, Daniel. That's enabling her to continue hurting me. She's my mother. She raised me, sacrificed for me. I can't just cut her out of my life. I'm not asking you to cut her out. I'm asking you to prioritize your wife, to tell your mother that her behavior is unacceptable, to stand up for our marriage. He looked at me with something like helplessness in his eyes. I don't know how to do this, how to keep everyone happy. That's the problem. You can't keep everyone happy. Sometimes you have to choose. And you keep choosing her. Daniel stood, reaching for me. I choose you. I choose us. I stepped back before he could touch me. Then prove it. When your mother inevitably tries to justify what she did, to play the victim, to make me the villain again, stand up for me. Tell her what she did was wrong. Set actual consequences. Don't just let her apologize and continue the same behavior. I will. I promise. But I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. The same uncertainty that had been there every other time he'd promised to support me over his mother. I need more time. I need to think about whether I can do this. Be married to someone who will always put his mother first. Don't say that. Daniel's face crumpled. I love you. I love you too. But love isn't enough when one of us won't stand up for the other, when one of us lets their mother destroy the other's career and then defends it as a mistake. Emily, please. Go home, Daniel. We'll talk when I'm ready. He left reluctantly, looking back multiple times as if hoping I'd change my mind. I didn't. Alone again, I ordered room service and called my sister Lindsay. She listened to the whole story without interrupting, and when I finished, she let out a long whistle. Wow. Patricia really went nuclear this time. She got me fired, Lindsay. I know, and it's horrible and wrong, and you should definitely sue her into next week. But Em, can I say something? Always. Maybe this is the push you needed. You've been killing yourself working 2 full-time jobs for 3 years. You love medicine. You've always loved medicine. This is your chance to fully commit to it without guilt. I know. That's the part that's making me so angry. She tried to hurt me, and instead she accidentally gave me exactly what I needed. So take it. Be the amazing doctor you're meant to be, and let Daniel figure out whether he wants to be married to you or his mother, because those are his only 2 choices now. Lindsay was right. I'd been so focused on keeping the peace, on making everyone happy, that I'd lost sight of what I wanted, what I deserved. The next few days were a whirlwind. My lawyer filed the wrongful termination suit. Gregory Sanders called me 14 times, which I didn't answer. Catherine Sanders called once, crying about how this was all a misunderstanding, which I also didn't answer. Patricia called constantly, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails that alternated between apologies and accusations. She was sorry for the misunderstanding, but also I was overreacting. She'd only tried to help, but also I was being cruel by involving lawyers. She loved me like a daughter, but also I'd always been ungrateful for everything she'd done for me. The manipulation was so transparent, it would have been funny if it wasn't my life. Daniel and I talked twice more that weekend. Awkward, painful conversations where he tried to convince me to drop the lawsuit, and I tried to make him understand that this wasn't just about his mother anymore. This was about respect, boundaries, and whether our marriage could survive his inability to prioritize it. Monday morning, I showed up at Mercy General for my first day as a full-time attending physician. The white coat with my name embroidered on it, the one that said Dr. Emily Hammond in clear letters, felt like armor. Welcome to the team officially. Dr. Reeves shook my hand. We're lucky to have you. I'm lucky to be here. And I meant it. This was where I belonged. Not in a marketing office making presentations and managing clients, but here, in the emergency department, making split-second decisions that saved lives. My first patient was a teenager who'd been in a car accident. Watching him come in on the gurney, unconscious and bleeding, I felt that familiar rush of adrenaline and purpose. This was what I'd trained for. This was who I was. 6 hours into my shift, during a rare quiet moment, Marcus Chen found me in the break room. You look happy. He poured himself coffee. Different from last week. I am happy. This is where I'm supposed to be. What happened with your other job, if you don't mind me asking? I told him the abbreviated version. His expression darkened as I described Patricia's interference. So your mother-in-law got you fired from a job you didn't even want to keep, accidentally giving you the freedom to work full-time at your dream job? He laughed. That's some accidental karma right there. I hadn't thought about it that way, but he was right. Patricia's attempt to hurt me had backfired spectacularly. My shift ended at midnight. I was exhausted, but exhilarated, the kind of tired that comes from meaningful work. I drove back to the hotel, already mentally preparing for the next day's shift. Daniel was waiting in the lobby. We really need to talk. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. I'm tired, Daniel. Can this wait? No. It can't. He gestured to a quiet corner of the lobby. Please. We sat in uncomfortable chairs near a fake fireplace. Daniel pulled out his phone and showed me a text message from his mother. Daniel, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please come over, okay? I didn't understand why he was showing me this. I didn't go. He met my eyes. Mom has been calling and texting for 3 days straight, begging me to make you drop the lawsuit, crying about how this is ruining her reputation, and I've been ignoring her. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I'm choosing you. I should have chosen you from the beginning, but I was too blind to see what she was doing. He took my hand. I called Mom tonight and told her that what she did was unacceptable, that she deliberately tried to ruin your career, that until she takes full responsibility and makes genuine amends, we won't be seeing her. How did she react? About how you'd expect. Lots of tears, lots of accusations about how I'm letting you turn me against her, lots of playing the victim. He squeezed my hand, but I held firm. I told her that you're my wife, and if she can't treat you with respect, then she can't be part of our lives. I searched his face, looking for any sign that this was temporary, that he'd cave the next time Patricia called crying. What if she never takes responsibility? What if she never makes genuine amends? Then I guess we won't be seeing her. His voice was steady. I meant what I said, Emily. I choose you. I should have been choosing you all along. Something in my chest loosened, a knot of tension I'd been carrying for 5 years. This is what I needed. Not perfection, but effort. Not immediate resolution, but genuine support. I want to come home, I admitted, but I need to know this isn't just temporary, that the next time she plays victim, you won't fold. I won't. I promise. He pulled something from his pocket, a folded piece of paper. I've been seeing a therapist. Just had my first session yesterday. He's helping me understand why I've been enabling Mom's behavior, why I've been putting her needs above yours. I unfolded the paper. It was a receipt from a therapist's office, dated the previous day. I believe you. But I also need you to understand something. What your mother did wasn't just wrong. It was cruel. She deliberately lied to hurt me, and if she's capable of that, I don't know that I can ever trust her again. I understand. And I'm not asking you to. Daniel leaned forward. I'm just asking for a chance to prove that I can be the husband you deserve, the one who puts you first. We sat in that hotel lobby for another hour, talking more honestly than we had in years, about his mother's control issues, about my career ambitions, about what we both needed from our marriage going forward. It wasn't a magical fix. There was still hurt and anger and uncertainty, but it was a start. I moved back home the next day. The house felt different, lighter somehow, without the constant pressure of Patricia's interference looming over us. The lawsuit moved forward. Gregory Sanders tried to settle out of court, but my lawyer advised against it. We had Catherine Sanders' recording. We had evidence of wrongful termination based on fabricated accusations. We had Patricia's admission that she'd called Gregory. It was an open and shut case. The deposition was scheduled for 3 weeks after my return to full-time work at Mercy General. I arrived at the lawyer's office in my scrubs, having come straight from a shift. Patricia was already there with her lawyer, looking small and frightened in a way I'd never seen before. The court reporter swore her in, and my lawyer began his questions. Mrs. Hammond, did you place a phone call to Gregory Sanders of Riverside Marketing Solutions on the date in question? Patricia glanced at her lawyer, who nodded. Yes, but please just answer yes or no. Did you tell Mr. Sanders that Emily Hammond was working 2 jobs? Yes. Did you tell him that this was affecting her performance at Riverside Marketing Solutions? I expressed concern that yes or no, please. Patricia's jaw tightened. Yes. Did you tell him that Emily had been falling asleep in client meetings? I may have mentioned, Mrs. Hammond, yes or no. Did you tell Gregory Sanders that Emily Hammond had been falling asleep in client meetings? Yes. The word came out as a whisper. Had you ever witnessed Emily falling asleep in a client meeting? No, but did you tell Mr. Sanders that Emily had confused the Anderson and Peterson accounts? A pause. Yes. Had Emily confused those accounts? Not to my knowledge. Did you tell Mr. Sanders that Emily had been late to work 17 times in 1 month? Patricia faltered, I may have exaggerated. So you lied. My lawyer's voice was matter of fact. I was concerned about her. Patricia's voice rose. She was working herself to death, barely sleeping, barely eating. I was trying to help her. By lying to her employer to get her fired? I didn't think he would fire her. Patricia's composure cracked. I thought he would talk to her, tell her to slow down, take better care of herself. But that's not what you told him, is it? You told him she was incompetent, that she was going to ruin his business, that she'd already made serious mistakes. Patricia started crying. I was trying to help. My lawyer played the recording from Catherine Sanders. Patricia's face drained of color as she heard her friend laughing about how Gregory had been happy to fire me, how I'd been too ambitious for my own good. Mrs. Hammond, does this sound like you were trying to help Emily? Or does it sound like you were trying to punish her for not conforming to your expectations? Patricia didn't answer, just cried harder. The deposition continued for another hour. By the end, Patricia had admitted to every lie, every fabrication, every deliberate act of sabotage. Her lawyer looked ill. My lawyer looked satisfied. Outside the office, Patricia tried to approach me. Emily, please. I never meant for it to go this far. I looked at this woman who had made 5 years of my life miserable, this woman who had tried to destroy my career out of spite and control, and I felt nothing, no anger, no satisfaction, just a vast emptiness where all my concern for her opinion had once lived. You meant exactly this. You just didn't expect to face consequences. I walked away without looking back. The settlement came through 2 weeks later. Gregory Sanders agreed to substantial financial compensation, a written apology, and a positive reference letter that acknowledged the termination had been based on false information. Patricia was named as a co-defendant and ordered to contribute to the settlement. It was more than fair. It was vindicating. But the best part came after. About a month after the settlement, I was working a night shift when a familiar face appeared in the emergency department, a young woman I'd treated during my residency, back for a follow-up. Dr. Hammond. She smiled when she saw me. I was hoping you'd be here. I wanted to thank you for saving my life. It's my job, but I was glad I could help. She handed me an envelope. This is a letter I wrote to the hospital administration about how you're the reason I'm alive, how you stayed with me when I was scared and in pain, how you fought to get me the treatment I needed when other doctors were ready to send me home. I read the letter, my eyes stinging. She'd written about my compassion, my skill, my refusal to give up on her. She'd written the kind of testimonial that would stay in my file forever, that would be read by future patients and colleagues. This means so much. Thank you. After she left, I sat in the break room with that letter, thinking about Patricia's attempt to ruin me. She'd thought my career was just a job, something disposable and replaceable. She'd never understood that medicine wasn't what I did. It was who I was. Daniel and I were rebuilding, slowly, carefully, with the help of couples therapy. He was learning to set boundaries with his mother. I was learning to trust that he would maintain them. Patricia had tried to reach out several times, always with the same theme. She'd made a mistake. She was sorry. Couldn't we just move past this? But her apologies always came with justifications. She'd been worried. She'd meant well. If only I'd listened to her concerns, none of this would have happened. She'd never understood that the problem wasn't her concern. It was her belief that she had the right to destroy my career because she disapproved of my choices. I don't think I want her in our lives anymore. I told Daniel one evening, not until she genuinely understands what she did wrong. And I don't know if that will ever happen. I understand. He pulled me close. And I support whatever you decide. It had taken 5 years and a deliberate act of sabotage, but he finally meant it. 6 months after the lawsuit settled, I was promoted to senior attending physician in the emergency department. The hospital held a small ceremony, and Daniel came, watching with pride as I received my award for excellence in emergency medicine. Afterward, as we drove home, he reached over and took my hand. I'm sorry I almost lost you. I'm sorry it took something this drastic for me to see what Mom was doing. I'm sorry, too. Sorry that his mother's toxicity had nearly destroyed our marriage. Sorry that it had taken a crisis to wake him up. But we were here now, moving forward, building something stronger from the rubble of what had been. A year after Patricia got me fired, I was featured in a medical journal for my work in emergency medicine. The article talked about my innovative approaches to trauma care, my compassion for patients, my dedication to teaching residents. A copy of the article arrived at Daniel's parents' house, forwarded by a well-meaning aunt who thought Patricia would be proud. She called Daniel in tears. I never knew, she kept saying. I never knew she was doing something so important. I never knew she was saving lives. Daniel's response was cold. You never asked, Mom. You never bothered to learn anything about who Emily really is. You just decided she wasn't good enough and spent 5 years trying to prove it. Patricia tried to arrange a meeting to apologize properly. I declined. Some wounds are too deep, some betrayals too calculated to move past. She'd shown me exactly who she was, and I believed her. But I did send her a copy of the medical journal article with a note. This is what you tried to destroy. This is who I am. And I'm grateful every day that your attempt to ruin me failed. I never heard back from her. Daniel and I thrived. Our marriage grew stronger without Patricia's constant interference. We bought a new house, one she'd never been inside, one where we could start fresh. 2 years after the lawsuit, I became head of the emergency department. It was the culmination of years of hard work, dedication, and refusing to let anyone make me small. On my first day in the new position, I thought about Patricia, about how she'd called Gregory Sanders, convinced she could control my future, about how she'd never imagined that her act of cruelty would free me to become exactly who I was meant to be. People often ask if I regret what happened, if I wish things had gone differently. And the honest answer is no. I regret that Patricia's hatred and need for control made her capable of such cruelty. I regret that Daniel took so long to see it, but I don't regret losing a job that was never my true calling. I don't regret being forced to choose my real career over a comfortable compromise. I don't regret learning exactly who had my back and who didn't. Patricia thought she was punishing me. Instead, she pushed me into the life I was always meant to live. Sometimes, the worst thing someone does to you becomes the best thing that ever happened. Sometimes, being destroyed is the only way to rebuild yourself stronger. My mother-in-law tried to ruin me. She failed. And in failing, she gave me the greatest gift, the freedom to become fully, unapologetically myself. I'm Dr. Emily Hammond. I save lives, and no one, not Patricia, not anyone, can take that away from me.